Which game is better for drifting, CarX or Assetto Corsa? I attempted to drift around Drift Playground, a very popular map in Assetto Corsa, and CarX to see which game is better. Will it be the more arcadey drifting game CarX or the realistic sim racing game Assetto Corsa? We are on Assetto Corsa and we are in the S15 from the WDT Street Pack. Now we are going to try and drift around the Drift Playground with this S15 and compare it to CarX. Now my Assetto Corsa is heavily modified graphics wise, so obviously it is going to look better than CarX. However, this is more about the drifting in both of the games, seeing how they compare and seeing which one is more fun to play and which is more realistic. I have played many hours of CarX and Assetto Corsa and I decided we should probably use the same car and the same map, so I will be using the S15 in both games and using the same map. Already I can tell you that this feels super smooth. Now Assetto Corsa has some really realistic drifting settings. Personally, after playing both of these games, I will say that Assetto Corsa does feel a lot more realistic. It's more close to drifting a real car than CarX. Now there is a reason to that. There is CarX, which is a game made for strictly drifting and has drifting physics, whereas Assetto Corsa is a sim racing game. The physics in CarX do make it a lot easier to drift than Assetto Corsa, purely because the game is kind of based around drifting. However, Assetto Corsa does feel a lot more rewarding because drifting is actually a lot more of a challenge. Unlike Assetto Corsa, CarX does have some settings that actually make drifting a lot easier. You can have assists if you really do suck at drifting and really just needs help. So there is always that bonus for having a game that is dedicated to drifting. Whereas Assetto Corsa has other things like racing through traffic or racing around tracks, the game is more of a sim racing game. Now that actually ties in perfectly with drifting as well, because you have those awesome car physics, which actually feels super realistic. Now I'm on CarX and I actually think this game looks really good. Considering I only have the Kino mod installed, I'm actually very happy graphics wise on how this looks, whereas Assetto Corsa basic graphics aren't the greatest. Now this game is perfect for chill drifting. You can just jump into sessions, online sessions with other players without having to install any mods, which is perfect, and it's great that you can just pick up a controller as well if you don't want to use your sim. Whereas in Assetto Corsa you will have to install a mod to use a controller, which kind of sucks, but CarX is probably the go-to game if you want to drift on controller anyway. However, on CarX I do feel like you can do a lot more stunts, which is super fun. I love throwing 360s, doing jumps and all kinds of weird drift things that you can do on this game, whereas on Assetto Corsa you can't really do them too much. 360s on Assetto Corsa are possible, but they do take a lot more skill, whereas CarX you can kind of just throw your car about, especially with the e-brake. You know, if you're playing on controller, this game is very easy. I mean, even on wheel it's not too bad, so it's definitely a good one to start drifting. Now my favorite thing is the developers keep updating this game. There's always new content and new features coming out, whereas Assetto Corsa heavily relies on its community to make different cars, tracks and other kind of mods. There is nothing wrong with that. I do believe that the sense of community in Assetto Corsa is absolutely huge because people are always sharing different things. I feel like the communities for both of the games are pretty die-hard anyway. Everybody who plays those kind of games really enjoys them, and I feel like everyone who plays Assetto Corsa or CarX probably play both games anyway, as these games are car games. Anyone who is into drifting probably has both of these games, let's say, because they are basically drift games. I mean, Assetto Corsa has more sim racing side to it, which there is a big community for, but there isn't really a battle between any communities. Now to sum it up, I would say Assetto Corsa is a realistic sim drifting game, and if you want some realistic drifting, I would definitely say Assetto Corsa is up there for the best drifting game. However, CarX is probably one of the most chill drifting games out there, and it has some really good physics too.